welcome once more to Made in MIQTV. It's Wednesday and it's 4 o'clock, and I'm going to shortly meet with another old civilian and talk to him about his career and his experiences. Now, that old civilian is called Jim Hay, who left Quegs in 1990, before my time, in fact. So I've only met him online, but I'm hoping he'll join me very shortly. And here, in fact, he is straight in. That's worked perfectly. Thank you. So Jim is Group Business Development Director at James Fisher and Sons PLC, and we're going to get him to tell us in a minute all about what that means. But very welcome, Jim, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. As you can see, lots of people are joining us live to watch what's going on. So we intend to talk a bit about your experience since leaving Quegs 32 years ago, I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Well, you left school a year after I did, so we're of an age. I think you were the first year of GCSEs and I was the last year of O-levels, I think.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, you had it tougher than I did.
Well, possibly, but it's all a long time ago anyway. But lots happened since then. So I suppose my first question this evening is, tell us a little bit about how you got from, or even coming to Quegs, but got from Quegs to here. Give us a quick overview, and then we'll go into a few more details, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, I left Quegs in 1990, which seems like a lifetime ago, which is certainly half a lifetime. I went to Sheffield University to study materials engineering. I really picked that as a subject because I had a fascination with engineering and a fascination with chemistry, but I didn't want to become a mechanical engineer. I was sponsored through university by a company called Bryden PLC. He used to make wire ropes for suspension bridges, and sadly they no longer exist in their current form. After university, I was obsessed with getting a job on the milk round, and I was offered a job by British Steel as a metallurgist, and I started on their graduate training scheme. And after 6 months, I left. I hated every minute of it.
Oh no!
It taught me enough that I didn't want to be a metallurgist because I had a natural affinity for people. So I always wanted to work in a commercial role, in a sales and marketing role. So I shamelessly used my knowledge of the steel industry to get a job selling refractories back to the steel industry.
Right.
And then from that, I moved into the nuclear industry. So I joined AEA Technology at Harwell as it was privatised from government. So again, I shamelessly used my knowledge of materials, analytical techniques, and advanced technologies to get a job there, again in a commercial role. And then I moved into motorsport because the work I was doing at in the nuclear industry was all about friction reduction and weight reduction. So I ended up working for a company called ProDrive, who they designed and built the Subaru World Rally cars at the time, and also the owner of the business, David Richard, was into Formula One. And I went to help them establish an automotive engineering consultancy, which was taking technology from motorsport and transforming it into road car development.
Oh wow!
And then that took me to a company called Ricardo, and Ricardo is a firm of consulting engineers that design engines, gearboxes for, again, Formula One, for passenger cars, military vehicles, tractors. And I led a number of advanced technology projects, both in terms of commercial development and client relationships. So I was working with Bugatti, with Volkswagen, with Audi, and Mercedes, Porsche. And then back in 2007, I started an MBA at Warwick University, which I did part-time, which was paid for by Ricardo, and that changed my life. It made me realise that I knew nothing about how the world worked, and I developed many different skills that I would never have thought were possible. But also, I developed a deep satisfaction with my current role, which is common for all MBA mature students. And then I found my current job. In fact, I didn't find my current job. My current job found me. It was actually a recruitment consultant who I'd met whilst I was working at Ricardo, who rang me up and said, "There's this amazing company. You'll never have heard of them. They do some amazing stuff, and you're perfect."
You'd be the man that they're looking
Yeah.
for if they don't know it yet.
Yeah, correct. And that was 10 and a half years ago. I mean, the group that I joined back in 2010 was about 250 million turnover, and in that 10 and a half years, we've obviously had to endure a number of challenges, including the pandemic. But 2019, we were up to about 640 million turnover.
It's growing all the time.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've ended up the only place a failed metallurgist with knowledge of the automotive industry and nuclear industry and other advanced technologies could end up. That really is why I'm here.
That is really interesting, because the way that you've described that, it sounds like a chain. Each link is forged from the next one, and I guess that's a really interesting way of looking back at a career, because you don't know what you're going to do next until the right opportunity comes, and that seems to have been what's happened for you. The skill set you've been developing then leads you on to the next opportunity. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do a lot of work with our interns and a lot of graduate recruitment. And what I always say is it's a little bit like a tree. When you are at the end of a twig, you look back and you can see every different fork in the road, and it all makes sense. You couldn't possibly have ended up anywhere other than where you are. When you're at the roots looking up, it's very difficult to imagine what you're going to do.
That's a really good analogy.
A lot of the young people I meet, they're obsessed by this question, and I hated it. And I didn't get a job many years ago with Air Products on their graduate training scheme because I gave the wrong answer. But they asked me the question, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?" And I answered it truthfully and said, "I've got no idea. I'm 21 years old.
What they're looking for.
I mean, how can I possibly give you an answer?" And to be honest, it wasn't the answer they wanted. They wanted well, I can see myself being CEO in 5 years' time. And to be honest, that's a ridiculous concept and notion. So, I mean, my view on careers is, you could never get your next job unless you've done your current job. And the advice I always give to people is try as many things as you possibly can. And it doesn't matter if you fail at them, because life and careers and a career path, it's a series of failed relationships. You move on to another job because the relationship with the old one has failed. But you learn different, and you take experience from that. So I say to all of the young people I meet, it doesn't matter what you do something, find the beauty and interest in it. It makes you more interesting. It makes you get opportunities to experience other people's experiences, and you can learn from their mistakes, and you can become more rounded as an individual. And ultimately, everybody. I mean, I when I started, and when I was in sixth form at Queggs, I think I became preoccupied about what am I going to do with my life. I could never have predicted.
It's easy to do when you're age 18 because it's the thing that everyone's talking about, and it's the focus for life at that time, and that's that is exactly what happens, and it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a series of milestones, isn't it? You do, in my case, GCSEs, then you do A levels, then you're expected to do a degree. To be honest, I didn't know, even when I was doing my degree, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I took the easy way out and basically converted to a master's degree and spent another year at university. And that bought me more time, and it also managed to evade the recession of 1994. And to be honest, I never really, when I was at Queggs, I've never really realised why I was there. And it only hit me many years later. I wasn't actually there to learn maths, physics, chemistry, history, and all those things. I was actually learning how to learn. And
getting an education.
And for me, I mean, my well, I'm sure you can see my GCSE grades, which are okay, and my A levels, which are less than okay.
I'll have to go and dig in a cupboard somewhere to find them, I think. But yeah, they're probably still on file somewhere.
Yeah, I don't mind admitting I'm the only person I've ever met who got an N in maths. So I made a choice when I was going into sixth form that I had to study maths, because if I wanted to do a technical discipline, if I didn't do maths, that avenue would be closed to me, and I was an appalling mathematician. It took me many. Well, I remember saying to my father when I got my A-level results and I got my place confirmed at Sheffield University, I went, well, thank goodness for that. I'll never have to do maths ever again in my life. How wrong I was. More than 50% of the course for the first 2 years was maths. And I had to get really good really quickly because this was something that I enjoyed, and I enjoyed the other aspects of it, and it was a necessary evil. So, I think if I could give one piece of advice to current sixth formers is, look, it's important, but it's not that important. You can work as hard as you can, and you can apply yourself, but actually whatever happens in the next 2 years doesn't define who you are for the rest of your life. People develop at different rates, and for me it didn't happen until I was in my 20s, and I didn't realise how much I'd learned about how to teach myself to learn. And once I took responsibility for that, my life changed completely.
That's really interesting. So thank you for that. You mentioned earlier the company you work for now no one's ever heard of. So tell us, but the little bit I know that we've talked already, and the more that we can find out, it sounds fascinating. Tell us a bit about the last 10.5 years, really, because you said, I think, words to the effect of, without the experiences you had, actually, you wouldn't have ended up here, and not many people could have ended up where you are because of that broad range of experiences. So tell us a bit about your current role and how you got there, please.
Yeah, I mean, people always say, well, what is business development? I mean, to be fair, my role is more of an internal management consultant. So I get involved in sales and marketing problems. So where we've got a business that's underperforming, or there's a market entry issue to solve. So how do we address the needs of a particular market, whether it's a geographical market or a technical market? How do we express our value proposition? So how do we talk about ourselves and the services that we provide in terms that create value for the customer? How do we articulate the complexities of our group into one cohesive message? Which, I mean, to be honest, we've not been particularly great at that in the past, because we are.
Is it quite diverse?
It's very diverse. We've got about 23 operating companies in the group.
Right. Wow, it's a big group. Yeah.
And we do everything from providing submarine rescue services to 7 navies worldwide, right the way through to completing about 75% of the world's crude oil transfers between supertankers.
Wow. That is quite diverse immediately. And
yeah, we also decommission nuclear reactors. So there's only three reactors being decommissioned in the UK so far, research reactors, and we've done all 3. So at the moment we're down in Winfrith, designing and developing a system that will remotely decommission the research reactor at Winfrith and package it up into waste receptacles. And I mean, just to give you another example, I mean, we're probably one of the world leaders in hyperbaric medicine. So that's how do we sustain life at pressure. So in terms of submarine rescue, it's all about bringing people out of trapped submarines safely. We have a lot of expertise in saturation diving equipment, emergency bailout rebreathers, special forces diving equipment. But interestingly, that led us into a new area during the COVID pandemic, because our knowledge of how to deliver oxygen efficiently into the bloodstream using respirators enabled us to develop a very low cost, easy to assemble medical device to be used in poorer countries. Effectively, we were able to use the pressure of the oxygen circuit in the hospital to precisely meter oxygen into the airway in a non-invasive way. So there's many different ways that we, lots of things that we cover, and really, my remit covers everything from trying to enter a new market or identifying a new growth opportunity, right the way through to potential mergers and acquisitions. So, you know, what companies do we need to buy? What kind of organisations will fit our model? Can we make money in that particular market? And what's our entry strategy?
Wow, that sounds really, really, really varied. So, you know, going to work on a daily, weekly basis, you're constantly thinking of a lot of different things. But as you said, the experiences you've built up over your career are actually superbly relevant. I understand what you meant now when you said, really, only you could be here doing this now.
Yeah, until they find somebody else. But anyway, no, we won't. I mean, well, somebody very wise said to me when I was at when I got my first job, and they basically said, "Look, if I can give you one piece of advice as a young man, make sure when you've had 10 years of experience, it is 10 years of experience, not one you repeated 10 times." And I'm very fortunate. I mean, in 10 years of my life here at this organisation has gone in the blink of an eye. Every day has been different. There's new challenges. There's some fantastic people. You know, some great opportunities. You know, when I first came here, you know, this is a business that's been going for 175 years. That's predominantly involved in the marine industry and energy industries. And my job interview here, I was asked, you know, where did I see the best, you know, biggest opportunities for this company going forward? And I said offshore wind. Now that was 10 years ago, and I got asked by our current chairman a few weeks ago where I saw the biggest opportunities for growth, and I said it's the same as it was 10 years ago, offshore wind. So I mean, the thing I'm most proud of here at Fishers is I started a business from scratch with nothing, which we've taken to about 100 million turnover in about 6 years. And when we look forward to the next 10 years, offshore wind will probably account for greater than 51% of our group revenue. So 300 million business within 10 years. And that's pivoting our organisation away from predominantly oil and gas, which is where it's been, into you know, new energy sources. And you know, when I was at school, you know, offshore wind wasn't a thing. You know, you couldn't have sat there and said, you know, in 20 years' time, I'm going to be working offshore wind. And that's the other thing I would say to the people, you know, who are listening. The jobs that you're going to be doing in 20, 30 years' time, you don't even know what they're going to be yet.
Of course.
So how can you prepare for that?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
If we go back to, you know, let's go back and look at your school career. If you imagine talking to your 18-year-old self, there's no frame of reference for that. That's quite interesting to try and put our current students ourselves into that position. What memories have you got at school? Can you think of any particular memorable moments or influential moments? Any particular teachers that stand out? We give a name checks. Some of them might not work here anymore, but there might be people who remember them.
There's two who really stand. Well, there's lots of them stand out, of course, but two particularly memorable ones. John Preston, who ran the design technology department, and Terry Spencer in chemistry, because both of those were influential in my career choices at the time. Because I liked chemistry, I was good at it. I liked DT, I was good at it, and therefore when I took the easy option and said, right, if I'm going to do A levels, then I'm going to do something I enjoy and I'm good at, because that should give me an easier ride. And then when I did materials engineering at Sheffield, it's a combination of chemistry and design technology.
It's a perfect fit.
Perfect
You
fit.
just have to do maths to try and join them together, which eventually works, but not straight away.
Yeah, but and Judith Johnson as well. That was another very memorable teacher.
Excellent. So you've already given some advice to aspiring students, people who've got ideas of where they want to be. What if you had to sum up your best piece of advice, or the thing that, you know, knowing now what you know, what you didn't know then, on thinking back to what you wish you knew then, I suppose, is another way of viewing it. What's your kind of diamond bit of advice for them where they are now, using your 30-some years of experience, would you say?
Don't worry about it. I mean, there is an obsession, and certainly my generation was guilty of it. There was an obsession about, it's a race. I've got to get there quickly. I've got to get a good degree. I've got to get on the milk round. I've got to get a good job. And actually, the older you get, you realise that you can't measure yourself against other people at all. There's no point. Even people who look as though they've got the best job in the world and are really happy, how do you define and measure happiness? How do you define your worth? Is it what people look for in you? Do they come to you for guidance? Do they respect you? Do they admire you? There's so many different measures, and actually these things have a way of working them out themselves out. So you probably already reached out to them, but there was this is a great example. There was a guy in the year below me who, if you'd have spoken to him, at no point at the time we were at school together would you ever have thought he would have ended up being in Groove Armada. And that's a guy called Andy Cato, and I knew him. He had a different name at school. You can bet your bottom dollar, like me, he had no idea where he was going to end up. He just pursued something he was interested in, met interesting people, and it led him to where he is now. And for me, it's been a series of happy and hapless coincidences. And I've got the best job in the world.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant to hear. If you is there a well, I ask this question to everyone. Is there a particular thing, again, thinking back to those days, that you wish you'd heard in assembly? Do you have any memorable assemblies or other experiences you can think back to?
Yeah, there's loads, but there's some I'm probably the
things you can repeat.
Well, I think what I wish I'd heard in assembly would have been something around the reasons why you're here. The thing that Queggs did for me, and my most memorable thing about school. I mean, I was in the comprehensive school system, and I was going to get lost without trace. And I was very fortunate. My parents recognised this and took a very brave decision that they couldn't really afford, and they were going to send me to Queggs. No idea how they were going to do it. And to be honest, it changed my life in ways that I didn't appreciate at the time, because I thought I was there to study maths and chemistry and French and all those kind of things. But actually, what Queggs did for me was develop my social skills and my confidence and my think skills that I couldn't even. There was no curriculum for them. There were skills that I developed whilst I was at Queggs that I've used the rest of my life. And to be honest, if I hadn't have had that opportunity, I'm not sure quite where I would have ended up. So I think assembly that basically said, look, do the best you can, make the most of it while you're here. And by the way, you might not appreciate it, but it's something's sinking in. It might not be the things that you tangibly leave with, like A levels and GCSEs. But the skills that you learn in an environment like Queggs is phenomenal. You won't value those until many years from now.
That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you. So you've already said the bit of advice you give yourself is don't worry about it, which I think is great advice, even though it's perhaps not the easiest advice to follow. When you're an 18-year-old with your A levels coming up, or a 16-year-old with your GCSEs in the offering, of course. But thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for joining us today. We're ever so grateful. It's been really insightful. Would you be happy for current students to contact you and perhaps ask advice and get insights into the particular industries that you've worked in? Because there's quite a big variety there, and I know we have students that have aspirations to find out more about that or to work in those industries. Would that be okay?
Yeah, no, it'd be
really kind of you.
I mean, the thing I'd like to leave them with also is the some of the things that we look for in people that we hire. Right?
Of course,
we of course, good grades. That tells a story. The subjects that people have studied, yes, that tells a story. But actually, what tells us more is how people think. So we've hired, and I've hired. So in my team, I've hired people from all different backgrounds. I've hired geologists. I've hired people who've worked in politics. Hired people who've got a double master's degree in finance. But the one thing they've got all in common is their ability to think through problems. The one thing that marks them out is that they've been given a challenge and they didn't know anything about it, and they've gone and found out what is going on. They've evaluated it, they've analysed it, and they've come up with a sensible way of figuring a way through the problem. And the geologist is a great example. This is somebody who got sent to Canada for a year-long secondment, and they only had a plane ticket, and they landed in Canada. And on the basis of how they talked us through what they did when they landed, and how they found their flat, and what they did, and what they got out of it, we hired them. And they're still with us now. That's 3 years later, and that's in a sales role. So somebody who was going through university, deciding what they wanted to do, doing geology, who would ever think they would end up in a sales role?
Indeed, that's probably exactly not where they thought they'd end up. But and none of that is actually discipline specific, is it? Lots of different disciplines will allow you to develop those skills. That is really interesting, because I think sometimes students get caught up on, I've got to do this, or this is the right thing for me, which as you've mentioned was where you thought you wanted to go, and obviously there's been multiple shifts, and we hear this, don't we? Or you'll do several careers in your life, but actually you're actually living proof of that. You've done several different shifts into new disciplines, using the experiences and the knowledge from the previous one.
Well, I'd like to think I've got another 2 in me as well.
And that was my next question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you think is next? What do you still feel you want to do? Because we're not old men. We've got life in us yet. And what do you think the next challenge is?
Well, in the world, the energy is going to be a huge challenge. I mean, it's the one thing that's not going to go away. When I look at the requirements for offshore wind, I mean, offshore wind is going to grow at 20% compound for the next 10 years. And it's going to.
By offshore wind, we mean these windmills stuck in the sea.
Windmills stuck in the sea, yeah.
To put it bluntly.
Yeah, windmills stuck in the sea. I mean, the technology is now up to 14 megawatt turbines. The development is, I mean, what we're seeing off the coast of the UK right now is a small fraction of what's planned. Same in Europe. We're hiring people in Taiwan. We're looking at Japan. We're looking at Korea. We're looking at Vietnam. And we're also looking at the States. So that's going to keep me busy for the next 10 years. And after that, probably there'll be some combination of hydrogen and how the world pivots to a hydrogen economy. Now, as soon as I stop finding it interesting, I'll go and do something. I would imagine that I'll be doing something in the energy transition space, and I probably will be doing some coaching, stroke consultancy, and some M&A advice, I would imagine, in the next 5 to 10 years. But who knows? I mean,
who knows?
Electric vehicles. I fancy having another crack at electric vehicles.
I was wondering when you were talking about energy, particularly, because that's. I was talking to another old boy actually recently who's about to go and work for Tesla, who are leading the way in battery technology, I think, or one of the leaders. And again, where does that end up? Because 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago, electric cars, well, they're a bit of a fad. Clive Sinclair's little tiny electric car was what we remember, I guess, from our younger days. But where does that end up? That's really going to be interesting to see. And driverless cars and all that technology.
Yeah, I'll make a bet with you. Electric vehicles will end up being like Betamax video.
Really?
It'll be an interesting quirk, but ultimately it'll get obviated by hydrogen.
Okay.
So don't ever buy an electric vehicle. Just lease one for now.
Interesting.
Is my
you heard it here first, folks. You heard it from an expert in the industry. You heard it here. We're recording this. We're on record with that, so we'll see. That's a little bet we can have and see how that pans out. But thank you ever so much, Jim. It's been absolutely brilliant to talk to you, and I'll let you get back to your work. I don't imagine you're finished for today, but we're really, really grateful. If you ever are in Wakefield and you want to come and visit us in school, it'd be great to see you. And you know, come and meet some students and come back and have a look around. I don't know if you've been back to school since the old days. A lot of people go, and it's many years before they get a chance to come back. But,
I've driven down Northgate and had a whimsical look through the gates a few times, and I will take you up on that. I just want like to say it's. I mean, in the God knows how many years it was since I've been at school, I've never had an opportunity to give anything back. And this is the first thing that I've ever thought, actually, do you know what? I'd like to contribute. So I owe Quegs a great deal. It was a great time there.
Well, we're incredibly grateful for you giving back in this way, because it's been really insightful, really interesting. I'm sure everyone that's tuned in has learned an awful lot, as I have. So thank you ever so much. You're very welcome in school anytime. You even learned how to use Instagram to make this work. Yes, another new skill that's been developed in the last week. So
I'll put it on my CV.
Really grateful. Thank you ever so much.
All right, brilliant.
I'll catch you sometime soon. Take care, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thanks. Cheers. Bye-bye.